Hi, I'm Rita. Welcome back to my booktube channel, Life Worth Reading. And welcome to my November TBR. If you've been here before, you know that I do my tarot TBR game every single month. I have a playlist of all the videos that I've done so far, all the TBRs, and I also have in my description a Google Docs link so you can check out the prompts and the rules. So if you want to play by yourself, you can. And this is the way that I build my TBR every single month. I'm not very good at following it, but I love making these videos, so I doubt that I'll stop. But yeah, I'm not the best at following my TBR. I'm a bit of a mood reader, but I have been trying my hardest to finish them, and I have been getting better at it. So let's see how this month goes. This month I picked 6 cards, and therefore I will have 6 books to read. And sometimes for some of the prompts I choose more than one book so I can later like mood read in between them. But I tried not to do that because it never ends well and it just seems like I have more books to read. But without further ado, let's just get into the card pulling. Hello and welcome to the card pulling section of my tarot video. As always, I'm using this tarot deck to pick my cards, and I have just divided the deck into the major arcana and the minor arcana. And this month I'm going to be picking 6 cards, so I'm going to be picking 3 from each pile, and that'll decide the books that I'll read in November. So without further ado, let's just start shuffling. Okay, our first card is going to be the Hermit. The first card that I got was actually the Hermit, which is very on brand because November is nonfiction November, so it's a month where people try to read nonfiction. Some people try to read only nonfiction. I could never do that. I don't read a lot of nonfiction. Mostly I read memoirs and such, and even then I don't read a lot of them because I prefer fiction. But the Hermit, the prompt is to read nonfiction, and it just fit very nicely. And for my options, I have a few that I would like to get to, but I have one that I'm definitely getting to the most. And that is a book called Late Migrations, A Natural History of Love and Loss by Margaret Rankel. And this is a book that showed up on my SCRIBD page, and also if you want 2 months free on SCRIBD, you can check out a link also in my description. But this book just showed up, and it seemed like I'm not sure if it's a personal memoir or more of a collection of essays and a collection of observations. This woman, Margaret, she comes from a small town, and it seems like she has witnessed a lot and has made her reflect a lot on what life, love, loss is. And I usually do love reading those types of books. They're not really memoirs sometimes. It's not really sometimes about the author, but it's more about the world around them and what they've seen and what they've grown up with. And I really appreciate those types of stories. And this is a book that really intrigued me. And then less on the memoir side and more on the nonfiction side, I have Pity the Reader, on Writing with Style by Kurt Vonnegut. And I've never read a Kurt Vonnegut book, but I love books on writing and technical writing. I loved Stephen King's memoir about writing. I really appreciated that. And it just seems like I will love this type of book because this author is very well known, and I do want to read his books someday. But before that, I would like to read more about his way of writing, what advice he can give. And I'm just very interested in reading this book. I didn't know it existed. It was also something that just showed up, and I just felt really connected and drawn to it, and I want to read it this month. Our second card the Magician. Next up, we got the Magician card, which is to read a fantasy book. Now, sometimes these are the hardest prompts because I have so many fantasy books that I want to read, that I'm currently reading, that it's hard to pick just one. But for this one, I'm picking a book that was also on my top 10 books I want to read before the end of the year. I will link that video up above. And that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. This is a book that has everyone talking about like in the last couple of years, but more so actually in the last year. And I'm just very curious about this book. I feel very drawn to it as well. It's a fantasy story that seems very typical, but at the same time it feels like something that I would really like. It seems more on the cozy fantasy side of things, and I just want to give it a try. And it's on my list. Like, we're in November, so I need to get to it either this month or the next month so I can complete that challenge, and therefore I am going to read it this month. And I'm just hoping for the best because I love cozy fantasy vibes, and I'm hoping that this one delivers. And the last card from the Major Arcana, we have the Wheel of Fortune. Then we got the card Wheel of Fortune. Now this is the only card that I couldn't prepare for because this is to randomize my Goodreads TBR and pick a book. And I have a section on my Goodreads that is my owned TBR, so all the books that I own, and I'm going to pick a book from there. And we'll just have to see what happens because this card stresses me out. Like, it stresses me out. So let's do this. My books. I'm just going to start screen recording. Okay, so I'm screen recording now, and you have here owned. And I'm just going to reverse, and I'm just going to randomly stop at one, and we'll read that one. And that is, it's barely, but that is Love After Love by Ingrid Prasad. Okay, I've had this book for a long time. Let me go get it. Wait a second. Here we go. I've had this book for a long time now, and I still haven't read it. And I'm trying to make a real effort this year to just read the books that I own, because I don't usually have that much attachment to the books that I own. I like to read them, and if I like them, I'll keep them. If I don't, I'll sell them and replace them with other secondhand books that I'm excited to read. And therefore, I'm trying really hard this year to read all of my backlist, all of my own TBR, so I can do that. See, if I like the book, I'll keep it. If I don't, I'll just replace it with a new book that I'm excited to read. And this book is just a contemporary story about family and about love, and it's set in the Caribbean, which is a setting that I don't read a lot of, but when I do, I really, really enjoy those books set in the Caribbean and Caribbean authors. And it just seems like a book, it's a book that's from, I don't know what year it's from. I'm going to check it out. Oh, it's from 2020. I thought it was much older. I don't know why. But yeah, it's a book that flew a little bit under the radar, but it's a book that I'm very, very interested to read. And I'm excited to get to it. So thank you, Wheel of Fortune. Thank you. Now moving on to the Minor Arcana, where I'll also be picking 3 cards. Our 4th card is the Ace of Wands. Then obviously something bad had to happen, and we got the Ace of Wands. My cards do hate me sometimes because any ace means starting a new series, and I've literally just posted a video about all the series I'm currently reading and how much that is stressing me out, and now my cards are telling me start a new book, you dumb bitch. That's what I have to do. I have a lot of options, okay? There's a lot of series that I want to start, but I was trying not to start new series, but I do have a lot of them. The first one, a library book that I'm going to read before I give back, and that is The Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao. And I'm not sure if I'm going to like this book, honestly. The reviews haven't been the best, and it's more of a sci-fi fantasy than just a regular fantasy. And I know that it's about being a pilot, I think. Like, they talk about war machines that are just giant moving kind of like birds, and it's about our main character who becomes a pilot, even though that women are technically not supposed to become pilots, but she does. And it's just about that, I guess, about a war as well. Maybe it doesn't seem like something I'm going to love, but it was in my library. I thought that I would give it a try, and I am going to read it in the beginning of November before I give it back. And this is a series. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. The second book was just announced. I'm not sure if it's going to be just a duology or if it's going to continue on, but I know that it's not a standalone, so I guess I have that one. And then also a book that I would love to read is Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I get like mystery and thriller vibes in November, and I want to try this one out. I'm also not sure how I'm going to feel about it, but it's a book that has everyone talking, and it's a series that has just wrapped up. It's a trilogy, and people just say that it's just a fun and a good time and a mystery, and I'm into it, right? It also has some romance, which I'm not as excited about, but if it's a good one, I can get behind it. It's just something that sometimes in my mysteries I would rather not have, but if it's good, I'm there and I'll eat it up. Those are the two series that I am going to start in November. I hate myself and my cards hate me. Let's move on. Our next card. The Princess of Wands. Next up, we got the Princess of Wands, and any princess, these are usually the page cards in other tarot decks, but in my tarot deck there are princesses, and this is to read a new release. And for the new release, I have another library book with me, and this is When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill, and this is a book that was just published, and I already have it. This is very shiny, and I'm very excited to read it. I just heard good things about it. It's about a time when women randomly started turning into dragons, and then they got slaughtered, and nobody really understands what happened. I sure don't understand what happened, and from what I gather, it's a standalone fantasy, so that's something. And it just seems like something that is going to be very exciting. This is a translated version, but the original also came out this year, so it's very, very brand new, and I'm just looking forward to see what I think of this, because the premise is a little weird, like women turning into dragons in the 50s and then all of them getting slaughtered. It's a strange concept, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Kelly Barnhill does with it, because this book does have good reviews. I'm hoping that I'll enjoy it. And our last card is the Five of Wands. And finally, I have the Five of Wands, which is a 5-star prediction. And I actually haven't done 5-star predictions in a long time because, one, I'm always wrong, and two, I never read the books that I put on the list. So I was thinking about books that I'm definitely going to read until the end of the year. I was looking at the top 10 list that I did, that video, and I was just thinking, like, which book do I feel like I'm going to love? And the answer was Our Wives Under the Sea by Julie Armfield. I talked at length about that book in that video, but the concept is really interesting. It's a queer, spooky mystery and horror book about a couple in which one of the wives goes on an underwater mission in a submarine, and when she comes back, she is not the same. I don't know if that's metaphorically, I don't know if that's really, like, she's not the same, but I just heard amazing things about the atmosphere, amazing things about the writing, and I do love a good spooky, especially a literary horror. Those are the ones that I enjoy the most, instead of straightforward like creature horrors or paranormal horrors. I love a literary horror, and so I'm really looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be a hit. I'm not sure if it's going to be 5 stars, but I really hope that it is, because my year has been lacking the 5 stars, honestly. But from that top 10 list, it was one of the ones that I looked and I was like, I think that's going to be a 5 star. Either that or I'm just in total denial and I'm just delusional. Maybe that's it, but I definitely think I'm going to love that one. Alright, so let's discuss the final TBR. For the first card, a nonfiction, I have Late Migrations, A Natural History of Love and Loss by Margaret Rankle, and Pity the Reader on Writing with Style by Kurt Vonnegut. Then for the Magician card, I have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. For the Wheel of Fortune, I have Love After Love by Ingrid Prasad. For the Ace of Wands, I have Iron Widow and also The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. For a new release, I have When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. And then for a 5-star prediction, I have Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Arnfield. And from the physical books that I have, these are the 3. I have 2 library books and 1 book that I actually own. And then all the rest are going to be read on either on ebook form or audiobook. Just a reminder, check the Google links in my description to see the document for yourself if you want to play along. I also have a playlist of all my other tarot TBRs, and I also have a link to my SCRIBD referral so that you can get 2 months free if you decide to join using my link. As always, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content, and I'll see you in my next video. I hope you have a nice day, and remember that life is worth reading.